going like this and like that, right? So if you're doing an escalation, it seems that there ought to be a de-escalation in parallel with the escalation, depending on what actually happens. Problem is that it is very difficult to reduce somebody's wages, okay? For whatever reason. You hire somebody, you're paid at one rate, they tend to buy cars and buy homes, establish a lifestyle that's based on their salary, right? And it's very, very difficult, regardless of the economy going down, to retain them if you try to reduce their pay. Okay? They're going to get angry. All right. On the other hand, Lilly, Microsoft, many others, I think this is where we left, are laying off their high-priced workers because they have continually increased their wages, and now they are not competitive with markets which have gone down, particularly over the 2008 decline recession. Okay, and so they're saying, hey, we can hire people that can do the job, and we're going to fire these heavyweights, and we're going to get back down to where we can be competitive. Okay? Okay, so escalator clauses and collective bargaining agreements. We talked about that. Adjustment frequency varies. Not all adjustments compensate fully for actual increases. Oftentimes there's a cap or limits. Some are folded in and affect the base rate for overtime, etc. Bargaining on escalators is very complex and imaginative. Employers need to resolve how they'll deal with escalators during bids. Okay? Now, let me give you one example of a lean method to deal with this. Okay? Because lean companies become differentially high performers, the money they make is differentially high. Return on investment, everything is high, significantly higher than competitors. So there is money to share. So instead of increasing people's salaries based on that differential and the desire to share that, the mutual benefit part, what they will do instead is they will pay bonuses, significant bonuses based on the differential that has been created by the people you're giving the bonus to. This remains very, very flexible. Okay? If the market changes, we're not making the differentiator, they do not cut the salary, they cut the bonus. Right? Bonuses are used by people in a different way than salaries. Right? They don't increase one's base level standard of living. Okay? They go into investments, or they buy a single thing, a new boat or something. But you don't go and buy it on time, expect you're going to get a bonus every year, right? You do it piecemeal. Okay? And so with that, and that is about 60% usually of the salary. That's a pretty standard. Competitive wages are paid, and a bonus of 60% of that salary is also paid. Okay? When the market justifies it, when the performance creates the differential at the bottom line. Does that make sense? Okay, overtime, flex time. What is flex time? Now a common term. What is it? Yeah.
Is that like having a flex day where you work an extra hour in every 2 weeks, you get that Friday off?
Okay, that's one way to look at it. Yeah, you could do that. You could say, okay, we're going to work every other Friday around here. We're going to work 9-hour days, right? And then we get every other Friday off. That's a very standard, usual situation in many engineering and construction companies. Okay, people like that. Every other Friday off, that's cool, right? Okay? Flex time has some other connotations that are even more flexible. What are they? That's kind of done on an organized basis. okay? The whole company takes off the Friday, or they say, you know what, we got clients, we gotta have somebody in the office, so we'll split it up. Half the company will take every other Friday off, okay, and we'll rotate it, if you will. Okay, so the company's not shut down on a Friday. Okay, but that's organized basis, and you decide which ones you're gonna be in, or somehow they decide, right? Okay, what is a more flexible flex time thing? Okay, it's like, I have children I gotta take to a daycare center, and I can't do that until they open at 8 o'clock in the morning, or 9 o'clock in the morning, right? And so I wanna work from 9 to 6, or I want some flex in when I work. Okay, engineers sometimes are allowed to do that. It's more difficult on the construction side. Why?
So the crew starts?
Yeah, you gotta have the crews there, right? So that's much more difficult to do than in the field. Okay. Overtime in times of high unemployment can be difficult to sell. Much of our big projects are done on overtime. And, oh my gosh, the waste of resources is profound. Okay, job evaluation plans. Determine the worth of an organization. That is the project, for example. In production, we have skill, we have effort, we have responsibility, and job conditions that may be considered. Implementation of a job evaluation plan. So we're going to give this job a bonus, right? Something like that is difficult to do, but not impossible. 360-degree reviews, core competency reviews are popular. Firms typically review performance on an annual basis and have rankings among projects. But you know, the difficulty comes in that sometimes a company may get a loser. They did the job, they get into doing the job, and you know, they realize that they made an error in the bid, right? So now we're going to have a loser. So does everybody scramble to get off the job? Because it's not going to generate, you know, from our formulas any bonuses, right? Is that what we want? Make it even a bigger loser? Okay, so now we got to deal with something different, right? We can't just base promotion, we can't just base bonuses. You know, maybe instead of losing $200 million, we only lost $100 million. Okay, well, at least that's better than, you know, the alternative, right? So should people not be compensated for that? If we have wherewith to compensate them. Okay? You decide to fire your project manager, and you want another project manager to come on the project, clean up the mess, right? So who do you go pick? Who wants to come join? Well, that's going to depend on the system you create, right? And you motivate him to come and pick up somebody else's mess and complete it. Okay? On what basis is he going to be evaluated? Okay? You can't pull for one thing while rewarding something else. Okay? We do that all the time and wonder why it doesn't work. Okay? All right. Evaluation of job performance itself. Advantages if you have a centralized uniform system to do it. That is, you say, you know, it's just not off the cuff. You know, it's not about how nice you are at the barbecue. It's based on, you know, real things that really make a difference and improvement and relationships and performance on projects, right? So you got to define that. You can't just make it up on the fly. Just like you don't like me to make stuff up on the fly when I give you a test, right? This is a test, but it's the real career test, right? Did you perform well? Well, what do you want me to do? When you arrive on the job site, that's the first thing you got to figure out, right? How do I, be successful here? What can I expect from others? What if I do, can I expect other people to do so that together we're successful? So we look good, right? Okay. The better you get at that, it will aid in settling disputes. There is such a thing as wrongful termination that you can be sued for as an employer. Procedures should exist. There's legal requirements. And of course, the inflexibility of that, it can be a problem, right? You establish exactly what it is, but maybe it doesn't work all the time. You need some flexibility in that too, right? And it oftentimes is very dependent on the application by the supervisor. So there needs to be some oversight to that to make sure that the supervisors are applying it appropriately. Okay, some innovations. Severe recessions, intense competition from abroad have pushed a couple of new approaches. One of them is a two-tier pay plan that is in a union situation where, okay, we got to be more competitive. Okay, we can't reduce people's salary. Okay, so what do? Well, one solution is that we hire people, new people coming in at a lower pay rate on a different scale than the old people. So if you're here before a certain date, you get the old scale, much higher than the new people. So how do you feel about that? Is that going to work for you? Same performance, same job, same responsibility, but you joined the company after a certain date, so your pay scale is only here to here, where others' pay scale is here to here. Okay with you? Depends on how old you are, right? If you're one of the older category, oh, that's just fine, right? But your perspective is young, right? Coming in, that's not so great, right? Okay, some lump sum payments, for example. Avoid increasing base wage with new contracts. Non-traditional approaches for paying workers include paying for knowledge rather than what's being done. Encourages flexibility, broad skills, a T-shaped skill set. What do I mean by a T-shaped skill set? This has been found to be highly advantageous in companies. Anyone heard that term before? And what that means is that what we want, our ideal employee persona, employee experience and expertise, is very broad over many, many items and very deep in some specific areas. Okay? Very broad because we want the interface capability. We want you to understand a lot of things and how to interface with lots of other people. But we also want you to be a real expert in something, so when we need that, you're the go-to person. That make sense? I think that's an excellent goal to achieve. Get real broad, but also get deep in some areas. Does that make sense? Okay, of course there's contract work, where we see contractors even bidding out the superintendents. Okay, you want to work on this job, you tell me what you're going to charge me. I'll take bids from my superintendents. Low bid gets the job, right? Stay competitive that way. Well, that's one approach. Okay, profit sharing plans, workers get more if the company does well, and of course, they don't believe it. Because so often they get lied to. So you don't get the benefit of that until you actually begin to experience it. Then amazing things begin to happen. Okay, establishing pay rates. Here we have an interaction of four actors: the employee, union, government. The extremes are either take it or leave it, or some lengthy negotiations. And there we have that piece. Okay, so what do we got left? Not much. Let me do one thing before we get started with the video. I'll have to send that and show that to you. I hope you're paying attention to current events and some of the things that are impacting your industry that are related to the classes you're taking, okay? For example, is anyone familiar with the Kobe Steel situation right now? You read about that anywhere? Kobe Steel is a huge supplier of structural steel and aluminum, okay, to automotive and construction industries, okay? It was recently discovered that they have been falsifying, they've admitted now, they have been falsifying specifications on that material. They've gone back and said, okay, you got to disclose the whole 9 yards, guys. What's been going on? They have been doing it for decades. 500 companies now. Well, first of all, what happens? Their stock tanks, right? Billions of dollars of investor capital are very quickly squandered, right? Now, we've got 500 companies out there who have to go back and look at what they have done with Kobe Steel, right? For decades. Give me an example. When I worked for Butler Manufacturing Company, we had a failure. There was a dome structure that had been designed, was for a university auditorium, very large one. And one night there was an ice storm. It differentially loaded ice on that dome structure. It was designed by thin shell theory, and it came down. Fortunately, there was nobody in the building at the time because it was at night. Okay? Now, they go back, and what's the question? Does anybody even ask how much load was on the facility? How much ice was on the dome? No, they don't even ask. What's the question?
Who screwed up?
What?
Who screwed up?
Okay, gotta elaborate. What do you mean screwed up?
They use Kobe Steel.
What?
They use a steel company.
Okay, it's more just what the steel is, but the whole issue associated with design comes into play, right? And construction. And the question is, was it designed and built according to what?
Specifications.
I heard it, but no, it's not. What? Code. Exactly. Okay? The code at the time it was designed to build, right? That's what you're held to. Okay? So as a designer, what do you use when you design the materials? Engineering specifications, right? The strength of materials. That's the basis, right? So if your building goes down and you are sued, and incidentally, if they lost that suit, they would have lost all the profit that that company had made on that product line since its inception in a single lawsuit. Now, it brings into question, what was the material spec, right? And they don't even know. Let's say you designed a large building and it's now a plant, okay, that you got automotive and trucks being built in, right? You go back and you discover it's 10% under design. So what do? You've got pipes and equipment and conduit all over this thing, right? And it's 10% under design. What do? Go back and shut down the company so you can scab the columns? You see how profoundly selfish lying is. It's inconvenient when the material spec didn't come up to required levels. We're going to falsify it. Why? Because it's inconvenient for us. It's going to cost us more money, right? We're going to push that down the road and let somebody else and all of these other companies that we service take the hit for that. You see the problem? Oh my gosh. It's huge. Okay, well, there you go. I will not be here Wednesday or Friday, but I will pre-record the lecture and videos that I want you to watch, and Young will be holding the class. So, yeah.